Welcome back to Hilaal Live. Now, South Africa held its own last week and was celebrated across much of the world when its legal team represented Palestine against Israel at the International Court of Justice. The legal team was praised for its delivery of the arguments made and the manner in which it happened, and this came with much applause. There was also a diverse group of lawyers which had represented South Africa. Now, how does the global South and the West now view South Africa? Joining me to discuss this, I'd like to welcome Reputation First Managing Director, Tshepo Matseba. Tshepo, good day. Always a pleasure having you here on Hilaal Live.
Thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here.
Right, Tshepo. I think the word patriotism was used quite a lot last week. And, we see South Africans getting together, especially when it comes to sports. But, last week was different, wasn't it? And it just gave a supposed positive outlook to how South Africa is in terms of now not being on the sports side of things, but from a social justice perspective.
Oh, yes, absolutely. This is an extension of South Africa's values that when it comes to doing the right thing, when it comes to exercising the utmost principles of democracy as a constitutional democracy, that we are able to act as a collective. And that's how South Africa defeated apartheid and injustice, and it looks like South Africa is sustaining that momentum of fighting for the right thing and really fighting injustice across the board. But you may also recognize that as a country, South Africa has been friends with Palestine for the longest of time. And Palestine has contributed immensely to South Africa's emancipation, the fight against apartheid. And so you expect that naturally, in line with the values of South Africa's constitutional democracy, the values of Ubuntu, that South Africa would actually take this stance and this position. Whether this is going to yield immediate positive results is yet to be seen, and it's a different story. But certainly the narrative that it has created globally is that there is a country in the Southern Hemisphere that is willing to stand for the right thing and that is willing to raise its voice and its hand, and ultimately which led to at least over more than 50 countries at least that are actually standing behind South Africa in the same message, so as to stop the bombardment and an unfair bombardment of civilians, of women, of children, of very small children, of innocent people. We know that by now, at least more than 23,000 lives have been lost. And it's a battle that is not equal. It's a battle that is not fair, given the reality that this is actually a battle that should be taken towards what Israel may call people who've terrorized them, people who've attacked them, but that does not actually equals to wiping an entire society that is actually living in Gaza. So South Africa's image actually comes across in this particular instance in a very humane, patriotic, progressive, and internally, domestically, while you may have different views politically, while you may have different political parties holding different positions on the matter, overall, South Africans are together in numbers. When you look at the more than 60 million people in our country, overall, South Africans, I would say, as a majority, are actually behind Palestine, and they are behind South Africa in actually labeling this correctly as a genocide, given the level of destruction and the level of pain caused to innocent people, women and children.
Tshepo, if you have been living under the rock, and I'm talking about those who have been obviously in the West, Africa is always viewed as a continent of, nobodies, a continent that produces really no supposed scholars, no supposed intellects. But I think what we saw last week was that a country, you mentioned it, in the Southern Hemisphere has such a strong legal team and such a diverse legal team. We saw a black female in Adila Hassim, Advocate Adila Hassim, coming to the party. We saw Advocate Tembeka Ngcukaitobi present, his argument, and it just shows that this diversity that South Africa has, you won't really find it anywhere else across the world.
No, I mean, countries like the US would like to position themselves as diverse countries. But on a competency level, when you look at the competency of South Africa's academic performance, in terms of our tertiary institutions and in terms of the graduates that we produce in the legal fraternity. And when you look at South Africa's justice system and who are the judges, who are the leading counsel, senior counsel, who are occupying key positions in South Africa, who's in the different bars of South Africa across the different provinces, you will notice that South Africa actually performs really on par with the best in the world. And when you look at the Constitutional Court in South Africa and who occupies those roles, when you look at the Supreme Court of Appeal, and when you look at our high courts, generally, really South Africa holds a significant position and stature when it comes to competency and expertise. There was no doubt, in fact, when you look at the diversity of the country, there was no doubt that South Africa can actually stand in heads above shoulders with the best in the world. So that would not really be questionable. Where some academics are beginning to ask questions is whether South Africa had sufficient time to actually invest in this process in terms of international law. And some of the professors have already raised some alarms here and there. But overall, South Africa has put forward a key discussion on the agenda. If you come from a different perspective, if you come from a harsher side of the West, a common side of the West, which says that everything is Israel and everybody else should just keep quiet. If you come from that side, you may actually have an argument that South Africa's case has got gaps and so on. But what we know is that the senior counsel that presented our case have placed on record a strategic challenge to the West, that it's no longer business as usual, that the West is no longer the only or the alma mater when it comes to international law, international relations, and geopolitics. And what you are seeing now is that South Africa has created a space for global dialogue where business will no longer be taken as usual, where countries will begin to take the West on and challenge them. And I think that South Africa, what it has created as well, was give the United Nations some ammunition to start actually growing some strength and confidence to challenge the common and historical injustices of the past.
Tshepo, I've been seeing a lot on social media. I don't know if you have also, but especially within in Palestine, and of course, you've mentioned the historic relationship between us and, of course, Palestine. But the West has always held itself from a tourist perspective. That we have the best, and I'm sure they do, and I still feel that the beautiful places to go in the West. But a lot of people would now like to take their money when it comes to going on holidays and come to South Africa. And that's a good thing, isn't it? Because you don't need to go ahead and sell South Africa as a country. They just love the country for what it is. And when they arrive here, they'll see the beauty of this country. It's that simple, isn't it?
No, absolutely. South Africa is probably one of the fewest places worldwide where you walk past someone in the middle of the capital city and someone smiles and greets you. Yes. In fact, if you go to London and if you go to Germany, you're hardly going to get a smile or greetings from somebody who just walking past you on the street. And so this country is truly a country of humanity, Ubuntu. But also what has happened has been very good for our positioning amongst non-governmental organization, amongst civil society worldwide. You've seen those children in Palestine saying thank you to South Africa, women saying thank you to South Africa. And that sends a very positive message about the humility of this nation. It reminds the world that this is a place where love is actually experienced for anyone, that everyone is welcome in this part of the world, and that, beyond the aesthetics, beyond our strong tourism sector, that even in business, you are going to find here people and individuals and a skill set that is friendly, that is full of humility. And of course, we know that we've got our challenges, but at this point in time, we need to celebrate and really appreciate the value that this conversation has started for our country, especially immediately after such a successful Rugby World Cup championship.
Tshepo, always a pleasure having you here, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
It's Tshepo Matseba, Reputation First Managing Director. After the break, I'll have your latest in news, finance, and sports. Do stay tuned.